The next one is secondary groups. Now we are going to talk about the secondary groups. They are also known as special interest groups or self-interest groups. Why they are known as self-interest groups? Because we are a part of secondary group because we wanted to be. And why do we wanted to be? We might have some interest in it. The secondary group which we are becoming a part, or maybe of the same age fellows, or maybe of the same gender, or they may be from the same institution. That is why we have some interest. So that is why we become the member of that group. The interest can be become if we are a member of the same profession, so that we know what happens in our institute, or what happens in the specific area we are working at. This is the interest. The concept of secondary groups was given by McIver, and then there are a few definitions, and that says groups which provide experience lacking in intimacy can be called as secondary group. So the purpose of the secondary group is that they provide us with some experience, we can learn from them, and they lack in intimacy. And what is intimacy? That is closeness. And then there are some characters of secondary groups, like primary group had some characteristics. The first one is they're larger in size, whereas the primary group was smaller in size and constituted of less number of people. The secondary groups contains more people. There is the physical proximity in the primary groups was more. That is, we meet, or the nearness, physical nearness is more in the primary group, whereas it is lesser in the secondary group. We do not meet quite often in the secondary group. Then there was a personal relation in the primary group, but the relation in this is impersonal, and there is a secondary relation that we meet indirectly, or we have even if we meet directly, we do not meet with or we do not have the whole heart in our meeting, like unlike the primary group. For being in primary group, you didn't need any membership, but for this secondary group, the membership is voluntary. If you want to be the member, you can join the gang, or if you don't want to be, you do not. As the next one is specific ends or interest. As we have discussed earlier, the group is also known as special interest groups or self-interest group. We become the part of the secondary group because we have some interest in it, because we want to be in that group. And the mode of communication is indirect, it's through telephone, texts, or telegraphs. This is a simple example. And the last one is social control. The social control in primary group was informal. The social control in these groups are usually formal. We abide by laws and we follow them. Then there you can see there is an example, and basically this is an example of a formal group. But if you see it as an informal secondary group, the class fellows, whole of the class is not a primary group. It's big in number. You can see it fulfills the characteristics. The nearness or the proximity is this, that we only meet the class fellows in the class time, or the class teacher in the class time. But sometimes there are some class fellows and some teachers where we form a primary relation, like the teachers of our play group. We like them a lot and we have intimacy with them, but later on the intimacies or the closeness to the teachers reduces in the life. And then you can see this is how it is a secondary group. And other examples of the secondary group is a relation between a doctor and a patient, or the examples given in your book is members of the same profession, mohalla fellows, residents of the same village, class fellows, playmates, relatives, members of the same political party, etc., etc. Then there comes the primary and secondary relations in contemporary societies. And now we are going to know which type of groups are found in which areas. Mainly the focus of on the rural areas is of the primary crops. They are less dependent on the secondary crops. They depend more on the primary crops. They share their things, their feelings, their everything with the primary crops, and they don't tell anything to the सेकेंडरी ग्रुप्स. जैसे हम देहात में चले जाते हैं तो वो लोगों का इस्तकबाल करते हैं, मेहमान नवाजी करते हैं, लेकिन उनको अपनी सारी ज़िंदगी की दुख भरी दास्तान नहीं सुनाते. ठीक है, बिकॉज वी शेयर फीलिंग्स विद द प्राइमरी ग्रुप्स. But in the present time, if we come to the urban areas, we see that the concept is almost entirely different. We are more dependent in cities. We are more dependent on the secondary group rather than on the primary group. We have you can say that we do not no more believe in the thing that blood is thicker than water. Rather, we are we work on the we work together with the secondary group or the tertiary group. And the reason for this can be due to globalization, due to education, due to industrialization, due to movement, that people migrate from different areas, and then they for socialization we need others. So this can be the reason that we are no more dependent on the primary group only. Then there's transference of interest, and transference that might be our interest or might be our values have transferred from primary groups to secondary groups. The things which we are lacking at is not and the primary group is lacking at, we find it in the secondary group. That is why we have shifted our main focus to the secondary group. Maybe that this can be the reasons. And the other reason can be this, that families have turned their kids, or you can say that both the parents are working, so they send their children or kids to, if they are at a very young age, to the daycares or the nursing schools, or when they become adult, we send them to the clubs. And the more education has been started at a very younger age. Maybe this is the reason that we trust on the secondary group more, that we know, okay, we are not at home, our neighbors are going to look after them, so we have to trust them rather than our other family members who are not here and come sometimes, and we don't know what are their intentions. So this can be the reason.